As a young boy, Minato Kusunoki carefully carries a potted plant across the tatami mats while his grandfather follows closely behind with a small wooden box. Minato climbs onto a small wooden stool to properly position the plant on the household shrine right beneath the sacred rope. His grandfather smiles warmly and hands him a couple of packaged snacks to place on the shelf as offerings. Minato sets the snacks down next to a white vase and jumps off the stool, feeling proud of his work. A few moments later, he glances back at the shelf and is completely baffled to see that the snacks have already vanished. He scans the room and spots a mysterious young girl with long black hair wearing a red kimono running away with the treats. Before Minato can even react, the girl vanishes into thin air, leaving behind a trail of shimmering blue particles. Terrified by the ghostly encounter, Minato runs over and clings desperately to his grandfather's jacket. Instead of being worried, the old man gently pats Minato on the head and calmly explains that the girl is a Zashiki Warashi, a friendly house spirit that has lived in their home since before he was born. He tells Minato not to be upset about the stolen snacks and assures him that being able to see these spirits is actually a special gift, promising that this unique power will definitely prove useful to him in the future. Years pass and Minato grows into a young man. He decides to move out to a quiet rural town to manage a massive traditional Japanese estate left behind by a distant relative. After getting off the bus near a weathered shelter with blue seats, he tries to navigate the unfamiliar countryside using a hand-drawn map. He walks past kids carrying a bug-catching net and a smiling Jizo statue, eventually stopping outside an old dilapidated house. He is completely unaware of the ominous dark purple spiritual energy billowing out from its roof, or the government onmyoji named Saiga Harima standing nearby. While Minato tries to read the faded writing on his map, a sudden gust of wind snatches the paper right out of his hands, sending it flying high over the mountains. Left without directions, Minato relies on a glowing magical pointer that guides him deep into a lush forest. The mystical trail leads him straight to an ancient moss-covered shrine, nestled at the base of a massive sacred tree. Deep within the shadows of the shrine, a giant mountain god named Yamagami awakens from its slumber, opening a single piercing orange eye. Unaware of the deity he just disturbed, Minato eventually finds his way to his new home. The estate is beautiful but completely overgrown with weeds, and the interior is cluttered with his cardboard moving boxes. He immediately gets to work, vacuuming the wooden floors, wiping down the glass panes with a gray cloth, sweeping the concrete steps, and vigorously scuttling across the long wooden veranda on all fours to finish wiping the planks. While he cleans, his mother calls him on the phone to check up on him. She reminds him to eat properly, and mentions that the house sat vacant for 2 years because several people came to look at it, but no one ever wanted to buy it. Minato hangs up and writes out a to-do list on yellow sticky notes, listing chores like sorting boxes and cleaning the entrance for when the gardener arrives the next day. The moment he sticks the notes to the wall, the handwritten text begins to emit a magical cyan glow. The magical energy instantly purifies the entire house, leaving the room sparkling clean and saving Minato from doing any more manual labor. The following morning, a gardener arrives in a white truck to help clear out the overgrown yard. The man easily trims back the foliage, transforming the garden completely. After the work is finished, the gardener sits on the wooden porch to relax, complaining about a stiff shoulder that has been bothering him lately. Minato playfully takes one of his handwritten memo notes and sticks it onto the man's shoulder. Suddenly, the paper pulses with vibrant magical energy, and the gardener instantly feels his pain vanish. He jumps up and energetically shadowboxes, completely cured of his ailment. Minato checks the memo note and is confused to see that his writing has completely disappeared from the paper. After the gardener leaves, Minato spots a fresh bundle of wild raspberries resting on a large green leaf right on the porch. Realizing that a spirit must have left them as a gift, he heads straight down to the bustling local market. He stops at a liquor store to buy a large bottle of sake and picks up a bag of traditional Japanese sweets from another shop to offer in return. Back at the estate, Minato sets the food and drinks out on the wooden floor and respectfully waits. Without warning, a giant white wolf with red markings and fiery orange energy floating above its ears materializes in the yard. Minato is briefly shocked that a dog can speak, but the creature quickly clarifies that he is Yamagami, the local mountain god. Yamagami admits he left the berries as a token of gratitude because Minato's handwritten notes inadvertently warded off the evil entities lurking around the mountain while the god was in a weakened state. Minato invites Yamagami to eat, and the majestic wolf eagerly devours the snacks and laps up the sparkling water, praising the refreshing taste. Yamagami mentions that Minato's writing possesses immense purifying power and asks if anyone has ever complimented his calligraphy. Minato recalls a time from his childhood when his family ran an inn. He carved a wooden nameplate for the building, and an onmyoji guest praised his work so much that he advised him to never take it down and even paid Minato to make another one. Since then, carving nameplates has been his favorite hobby. Minato pulls out a newly carved wooden plaque bearing his family name and mounts it on the estate's gate. The moment he steps back, the carved characters glow with a vibrant green aura. A massive cube-shaped magical barrier erupts from the sign, completely enveloping the entire estate and permanently locking out any evil entities. Yamagami is deeply impressed and encourages Minato to continue honing his rare abilities to gain even greater power. A few days later, Yamagami visits the estate again to enjoy more sweets. As the wolf eats, Minato brings his hands together in a respectful prayer, genuinely thanking the god for coming to his home. This pure reverence supercharges Yamagami, causing the god to glow with blinding golden light beams and shimmering rainbow flares. Minato shields his eyes and jokingly asks him to tone down the divine radiance. Meanwhile, in a dark, grimy alleyway on the other side of town, Harima is engaged in a fierce battle alongside his colleagues, Katsuragi and Horikawa. They are trying to exorcise several purple spectral spirits, but the monsters are incredibly tough. Harima chants a spell to unleash a blue magic aura, while Horikawa uses a paper talisman to launch a magical slash. One of the spirits easily dodges her attack, bursting through a window and escaping toward the shopping district. Harima immediately chases after it, leaping from the building and sprinting down the sunlit streets to stop the monster before it hurts anyone. Minato happens to be walking down that exact street at the same time, holding his grocery list and completely unaware of the danger. The evil spirit lunges at him from behind, but the moment it gets close, it hits an invisible aura around Minato and instantly shatters into a million sharp shards. Harima catches up just in time to witness the incredibly powerful spirit get obliterated in a single second. He is utterly shocked and stares at Minato in disbelief. Minato notices Harima staring at his shopping list and assumes the man is just confused about the area. He happily explains that he wrote down his groceries so he wouldn't forget them. Still reeling from the shock, Harima awkwardly asks where to buy trash bags to cover up his astonishment. Minato helpfully points him toward a nearby drugstore and continues on his way, leaving Harima to wonder what kind of terrifying power this random civilian possesses. Back at the estate, Minato is amazed to find that his empty courtyard has been transformed into a beautiful, pristine landscape featuring a stone bridge and a sparkling pond. Yamagami proudly takes credit for the miracle, but the effort drains a massive amount of his spiritual power, causing the giant wolf to shrink down to the size of a regular dog. Minato finds it hilarious and calls him cute. A few days later, Minato returns home from running errands and finds Yamagami looking even smaller, almost the size of a squirrel. To his surprise, Yamagami is not alone. He is accompanied by 3 tiny adorable marten spirits named Seri, Torika and Utsugi. Yamagami explains that he used even more of his power to create these little avatars to act as his kin and help out around the property. Minato happily treats the 3 little spirits to some freshly sliced sponge cake. They devour the treats instantly, declaring it the most delicious thing they have ever tasted and shouting out their love for Minato, before falling into a deep food coma on the porch, clutching their stuffed bellies. While the spirits sleep, Harima approaches the Kusunoki estate. The onmyoji instantly senses the massive divine barrier surrounding the house and is completely stunned by its sheer overwhelming power. Minato spots Harima at the gate and invites him inside. Sitting in the living room across from the resting Yamagami, Harima introduces himself as an official government onmyoji and explains that there is a severe shortage of capable exorcists to deal with the rising number of evil spirits. Realizing that Minato was the one who effortlessly destroyed the monster in the shopping district, Harima asks to purchase his magical talismans. Minato assumes Harima just wants his grocery list, but Harima dismisses it as ordinary paper. To prove his point, Minato grabs a green pen and writes out a new list of traditional Japanese sweets, including kokudo manju, kuri manju, millet dumplings, mugwort dumplings, and sakura mochi. The moment the pen leaves the paper, the notepad radiates an intense neon green magical glow. Harima performs a massive spit take, spraying his tea everywhere as he stares in sheer terror, realizing that even an ordinary list written by Minato carries enough power to obliterate top-tier demons. Desperate to secure the weapon, Harima violently forces 2 massive stacks of cash into Minato's hands as payment, refusing to take no for an answer despite Minato's panicked protests. Minato feels incredibly guilty taking so much money for a simple list, so he grabs a marker and draws a pentagram on Harima's hand as a bonus, hoping it might give the onmyoji a little extra luck in his battles. Harima stares at the glowing green star on his palm in shock. Just as he finishes the drawing, Harima's phone rings with an emergency call. Katsuragi and Horikawa are trapped in a ruined building on the edge of town, facing off against a towering purple slime monster that is far too powerful for them to handle. They beg Harima for immediate backup. Harima rushes to the scene, finding his friends terrified as the massive beast prepares to crush them. Knowing conventional magic won't work, Harima charges forward and thrusts his fist toward the monster, allowing the star Minato drew on his hand to pulsate with blinding green light and unleash a colossal wave of pure magical energy directly into the giant slime. Minato sits at his wooden table looking incredibly stressed as he reviews his household ledger and checks his smartphone calculator. He realizes he is completely broke despite recently selling a magical memo to Harima. He thinks about how the money disappeared so quickly and figures out that it is because the snacks he buys for the spirits are far too expensive. Right in front of him, the three little Martin spirits, Utsugi, Torika, and Sari, joyfully feast on large cream puffs, completely ignoring his financial struggles. They praise the rich cream and thank Minato for the treat, noting that it must have cost a lot of money. Minato hides his panic and puts on a warm smile, assuring them that they do not need to worry about the cost because he just wants them to eat well. Utsugi immediately demands another cream puff, prompting the other Martins to scold him for eating too much. Meanwhile, the giant wolf god Yamagami lies on the floor nearby, contentedly chewing on premium kintsuba from a famous shop that has been in business for centuries. Yamagami praises the sweets for melting in his mouth, entirely unaware of the toll it takes on Minato's wallet. Minato sighs heavily and looks back at his account book, realizing that the deities have absolutely no restraint when it comes to food. He knows that if he tries to save money by buying cheap snacks, the spirits will become incredibly dejected and their moods will plummet. He pictures them standing gloomily under a spotlight and knows he cannot bear to disappoint them. Out in the courtyard, Minato's magical pond and stone bridge look beautiful, but he knows he needs to find a way to fund this lifestyle. Later, he walks down the city street with his tote bag and spots a recruitment poster outside a local cafe looking for part-time workers. He briefly considers applying for a job to help cover the snack expenses, but quickly dismisses the idea because he knows part-time pay is too low to make a real difference. He resigns himself to the depressing reality that he will just have to downgrade their snacks. As he walks past the local shopping district, he notices a festive red and white striped lottery booth set up on the street. A staff member announces that the raffle is currently taking place and that one ticket earns one spin of the wheel. Minato approaches the service desk and hands over his single red raffle ticket to the woman in charge. He steps up to the traditional wooden lottery wheel and gives it a spin. A golden ball rolls out of the machine and drops into the wooden prize tray. The staff member enthusiastically rings a golden handbell and shouts out that Minato has just won the grand prize. Confetti and colorful streamers rain down on Minato as he stands there completely dazed by his sudden luck. The staff member hands him a prize envelope containing a massive 100,000 yen cash gift certificate. Minato stares down at the envelope in shock, realizing that this money solves all of his current financial problems. With his wallet full again, he decides to visit a local liquor store to buy some high-quality sake for Yamagami. He walks into the traditional shop, but before he can even browse the shelves, two party poppers burst open and shower him with confetti. The store owner enthusiastically announces that today is the shop's 333rd anniversary, and because Minato happens to be their 333rd customer, he wins a premium gift-boxed set of sake. Minato returns home carrying multiple shopping bags and his prize envelope, completely overwhelmed by his impossible streak of luck. He assumes Yamagami must be using divine powers to help him win all these prizes. He asks the giant wolf about it, but Yamagami casually denies having anything to do with it. Instead, Yamagami points out toward the garden and claims that the good fortune is actually coming from a new creature. Minato looks out at his crystal clear pond and spots a small turtle spirit sitting on a mossy boulder. The turtle has a rocky, plant-covered shell that looks like a miniature mountain landscape. Yamagami explains that this creature is Reiki, one of the 4 sacred beasts that bring good fortune. He mentions that the turtle, which he simply calls Kame, decided to come here because Minato previously helped it. Minato is completely baffled and states that he has absolutely no memory of ever meeting a magical turtle. Yamagami clarifies that the incident happened a while ago when Minato exorcised an evil spirit on the street. Minato thinks back to the day he accidentally destroyed a purple monster with his grocery list while Harima was chasing it. He realizes that a small white magical orb dropped to the ground after the monster was destroyed, and that orb eventually transformed into Kame. Minato's phone suddenly rings, interrupting his thoughts. His mother calls from the Onsen Garden Resort and tells him that she just checked the results of a raffle he entered before moving away. She happily informs him that he won the grand prize of 1 million yen. Minato is absolutely stunned and finally believes Yamagami's explanation about the turtle's luck-bringing powers. He drops to his knees on the wooden floor and bows deeply to Kame, laughing and thanking the turtle for the incredible fortune. Yamagami mentions that Kame really wants to live in their pond. Minato gladly accepts the new roommate and tells Yamagami that it is fine since this is the wolf's garden anyway. Kame laughs joyfully at the news. Wanting to celebrate, Minato brings out the premium sake he won at the liquor store and offers it to the turtle. Kame drinks the sake directly from a red bowl on the porch and seems to really enjoy it. Minato tells Yamagami that Kame can really hold its liquor and encourages the turtle to drink as much as it wants. Suddenly a glowing magical orb descends onto the wooden floor right beside Minato. The light fades to reveal 3 small dark seeds resting on top of a vibrant green leaf. Yamagami explains that the seeds are a thank you gift from Kame and that Minato should plant them somewhere in the garden. Minato agrees and takes the seeds out to the grass. He carefully plants one of the seeds in the rich soil and asks Yamagami what kind of plant it will grow into. Yamagami scolds him for not asking before planting it, but simply tells him to wait and watch it grow. Sometime later, Minato sits in his living room offering a plate of assorted cookies to the 3 martins. They happily eat the treats, but their snack time is interrupted when 2 small, floating Oni spirits drop down from the ceiling beams. One is a blue-skinned spirit carrying a large white windbag, and the other is a red-skinned spirit carrying a ring of golden thunder drums. Minato is startled, but Yamagami casually greets them as Fujin and Raijin, the legendary wind and thunder gods. The 2 tiny gods apologize for intruding and ask if they can have some cookies too. Minato happily offers them the plate, finding the legendary deities surprisingly cute. Fujin and Raijin float outside to eat their snacks and chat with Yamagami. They mention that Yamagami looks much healthier now, noting that they thought he was going to die when he was weak. Yamagami insists he is not that easy to kill. The 3 martins get defensive over their cookies, but the gods tell them to relax. Fujin explains that they just came to visit because they heard the estate had become a very comfortable place to live. They notice Kame drinking sake from the red bowl and mention that it smells delicious. Minato quickly offers the gods some sake, and they happily accept the invitation to drink. After getting entirely drunk and falling asleep on the table, Fujin wakes up feeling satisfied. As a token of gratitude for the hospitality, the blue Oni snaps his fingers and surrounds Minato in a shimmering golden magical aura. He grants Minato the power of wind. Minato stands on the porch and tries to figure out how to use his new ability. He concentrates hard and thrusts his hands forward, managing to manifest a gentle breeze that rustles a leaf held up by one of the martins. The spirits praise him, but Yamagami notes that the wind is far too weak and needs to be strengthened. Minato wonders if he can just use the gentle breeze to sweep leaves around the yard. Meanwhile, in a dark and derelict industrial basement far away from the peaceful estate, Harima and Ichijo are locked in a fierce battle against a massive purple spectral monster. Ichijo uses his magic to summon massive pillars of earth from the ground, but the effort leaves him completely exhausted. He leans against a graffiti-covered wall, panting heavily. The purple monster lunges at Ichijo, prompting him to panic and aggressively yell at his partner Horikawa to save him. Before the monster can strike, Harima charges past them with intense speed. He uses the glowing green star seal that Minato drew on his hand to punch the monster directly in the face. The magical energy completely obliterates the evil spirit, reducing it to a cloud of dark smoke. Horikawa thanks Harima for the save, but Ichigo glares at him with intense hatred. Later, as they walk through the dim corridor, Horikawa asks Ichijo if he ever found out where Harima gets his incredibly powerful shopping memos. Ichigo aggressively grabs her by the collar, furious that she is asking about his rival. He demands to know why she thinks Harima is more capable than him. He suddenly releases her and storms down the hallway, screaming out a defiant vow that he will never lose to Harima. Back at the estate, the rainy season ends and the sun comes out. Minato goes out to the garden and is amazed to see that the tiny seed he planted has rapidly grown into a beautiful glowing tree surrounded by magical golden particles. Yamagami explains that it is the sacred tree of the Kusunoki residence. Minato smiles warmly and waters the tree, hoping to help it grow even bigger. Later, Minato unpacks a cardboard box filled with supplies sent by his mother, including some delicious onsen manju that Yamagami eagerly eats. Minato pulls out a light blue hiking jacket and a pair of sturdy boots. He tells Yamagami that he wants to climb Mount Hojo to pay his respects at the mountain god's shrine. Yamagami warns him that the mountain is not meant for casual hiking, but Minato is determined to go. Yamagami instructs the 3 martins to guide Minato up the trail. The hike turns out to be incredibly exhausting. Minato sweats profusely as he struggles up the steep dirt paths and crosses rivers by jumping over mossy rocks. The martins try to encourage him, though Utsugi just sits on Minato's shoulder eating snacks, while the other 2 scold him for adding extra weight. Minato eventually reaches the top and finds a small weathered wooden shrine nestled at the base of a colossal tree wrapped in a traditional rope. The shrine is covered in dirt and debris. The martins tell Minato he does not need to clean it, but Minato insists that he wants to honor the people who used to worship Yamagami here. Inspired by his dedication, the martins pitch in to help. Minato gathers heavy wooden logs, while the martins wipe down the steps and the roof. Once the shrine is spotless, they all sit on the steps to enjoy some sweet pastries together. Suddenly, the peaceful atmosphere is shattered when a dark, swirling orb of purple magical energy manifests near the waterfall. The mist clears to reveal a grotesque purple slime monster with glowing white eyes and a gaping maw. The creature emits a menacing roar and begins to charge at them. Minato immediately recognizes it as an evil spirit. He tries to send the martens forward, but the dark impurity radiating from the monster is so toxic that it physically repels the small spirits, knocking them backward through the air. Realizing his friends cannot get close, Minato knows he has to fight it himself. He pulls out his pocketbook full of the handwritten memos he created earlier. Since he cannot get close enough to stick a memo directly onto the monster, he comes up with a desperate plan. He tosses the entire stack of paper flyers high into the air. Drawing on the power granted to him by Fujin, Minato thrusts his hands forward and unleashes a powerful blast of glowing green wind magic. The magical gale catches the paper talismans and propels them forward like razor-sharp blades. The glowing green flyers slam into the purple monster, instantly disintegrating it into a cloud of smoke. Minato clenches his fists in triumph as the martens cheer for his quick thinking. With the evil spirit destroyed, a shimmering golden orb drops onto the rocky riverbank and transforms into a large, sleeping mythical beast with green and orange fur and white antlers. The dragon-like creature wakes up, glances at Minato, and then gracefully leaps high into the sky, disappearing over the waterfall in a flash of speed. Minato is just glad the creature is safe and heads back down the mountain. At the estate, Yamagami thanks Minato for cleaning the shrine. Minato asks about the strange deer creature he saw, but Yamagami just tells him to wait and see. Minato then notices that the sacred tree in his yard has stopped growing. Kami assures him that this is completely normal for a sacred tree. A moment later, Minato slides open a wooden door and is startled to find a small turquoise dragon with yellow horns and purple wings sitting on the floor. Minato recognizes it as the creature from the mountain, but notes it looks completely different now. The dragon introduces itself as Oryu. Yamagami explains that Oryu is another one of the 4 sacred beasts. Oryu flies out into the yard and unleashes a magical roar that summons dark clouds over the estate. A gentle rain begins to fall solely over the sacred tree, providing it with magical nourishment. After watering the tree, Oryu heads inside and joins Kame for a drink. Turns out Oryu loves red wine, making the 2 beasts perfect drinking buddies. Yamagami tells Minato that Oryu is very grateful to him for saving its life. Minato points out that Haruma was the one who actually fought the evil spirit that day, but the martens explain that Haruma used the pentagram Minato drew on his hand to win the fight, meaning Minato's power was the true savior. Minato just smiles and says he is happy Oryu survived. Sometime later, Harima visits the estate and brings Minato a box of sweet mizu-yokan as a gift. Harima praises the effectiveness of the pentagram, but awkwardly asks Minato if he can draw a different pattern this time. He explains that the star shape is actually his family's crest, so walking around with it glowing on his hand is a bit embarrassing. Minato apologizes for the mix-up and uses a black marker to draw a glowing green plaid grid on the back of Harima's black glove instead. Later that night, Harima sits at a local bar having a drink with the older onmyoji, Katsuragi. Harima shows off the new grid pattern on his glove. Katsuragi jokes about Harima throwing business cards to fight monsters, but then his tone turns serious. He warns Harima that Ichijo has already seen Minato's power in action and holds a deep grudge against Harima. Katsuragi fears that Ichijo might try to target Minato to get back at Harima, putting the innocent civilian in serious danger. The next day, Minato walks down a sunny city street holding a piece of paper. Without warning, Ichijo walks past and intentionally slams his shoulder hard into Minato. Minato stumbles back in surprise while Ichijo turns around and glares at him with a fierce, malicious smirk, clearly recognizing Minato as the source of Harima's power.
That is the end of the story for now. Subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.